Go ahead, we got a technical problem. We'll give you another minute or so. Sheriff, are you sure that gator wasn't a guard dog for a grow down there?
Confirm or deny anything.
You're a politician, aren't you?
That's right. I've learned to become one anyhow.
Really? Yeah.
Just don't become a shift.
No. Oh, man.
So are we ready for winter?
Yeah, I'd like to have some rain. I live out
Okay,
on...
we're ready, guys.
Are you sure?
Quiet on the set, yeah.
Don't tell me to be quiet.
Hello, Calaveras County. Welcome to another episode of Mondo Calaveras. I'm your host, Mike Taylor. Now, folks, we told you we were going to do this when we spoke a few months ago with today's guest. And, well, the County Board of Supervisors has taken a step, maybe, toward it. So we'll see what happens. My guest is Sheriff Rick DiBasilio. Rick, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, Mike. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I'm trying to figure out what on earth the Board of Supervisors is thinking, because they approved some cannabis ordinances and such, and then just this week they didn't approve the budget for it all. So let's start with the ordinances that they crafted. Are they going to work for you?
In the concept, yes. The 17.95, which is actually the ordinance in itself, is pretty well crafted, I believe. I think that it's going to keep it out of the rural residential areas, which was one of my major concerns even back to 2016. So they've done that. And they've taking it out of those areas is going to limit a lot of the complaints that we had.
Okay.
The bar circle, Diamond 20s, the M24 ranches no longer grow in those areas.
Yeah.
And those were our biggest complaint areas.
Requires larger than 20 acres?
Well, it does and it doesn't.
Okay.
There's certain areas that if you have more than 10 acres, you have to get a CUP.
I see.
Otherwise, it's 20 acres, but those areas are zoned, the Diamond Circle Bar 20s are zoned rural residential, so they can't grow in there at all.
Can't grow there, okay.
They can grow their 6 plants, that's under Prop 64, so they have that legal right to do that.
Okay.
And I think there's still a 35-foot setback, so on those 20-acre properties shouldn't be a big issue. So as a whole, that was a big thing that I think is going to make the county a lot better off. We won't have those complaints, odor, smells, and stuff like that. So overall, the ordinance is in pretty good shape. Then they passed that 9.22, which is the background stuff.
Okay.
That the CAO's office is going to be heading. We're not going to have any part of doing the background checks.
Okay.
There was a little controversy on that, and I was pretty specific that if they didn't want certain things that I wasn't going to do the backgrounds other than on my terms, and they're actually keeping the same guidelines that we gave them, we being the DA and my department, but the CAO's office is going to do it. They think that they can do it faster.
Okay.
So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that plays out. And then yes, the other day, Tuesday, they did not pass the budget for that. And what's funny to me about this is that the ordinance is starting December 23rd.
Yeah, in a few weeks.
Yeah. So they have an ordinance that they have to move forward with now. So the funding at this point now is just going to come out of the general fund.
Yeah.
So those fees that the growers will be paying will have to go into an account and sit there until they change.
Figure out how to budget all.
Right. Well, I know that Supervisor Toffanelli at the very end of the meeting did bring that item back to the board, pulled the board, so they are going to revisit it, it sounds like, on December 10th.
Yeah, I remember that too.
So there may be a different decision come December 10. My suggestion to the board, if they're listening and watching, is that as much as they don't want, some of them don't want this program, they need to approve that, or us as taxpayers are going to be paying for the growers when the growers are obviously willing to pay for it. So stand the program up is my opinion, and let's move forward so that we're not scrambling like we did back in the urgency ordinance.
Do you think, and I know you're not, I don't expect you to speak for them, for the Board of Supervisors, but do you think they're kind of getting almost shy, and maybe some of the supervisors who weren't, let's just move forward on this, are they worried that we're going to get stuck in another urgency ordinance thing where they get overrun and we have so many applications moving that nobody can do anything?
I think that some of them might be, but I think realistically, if you look back on the urgency ordinance, we had over 735 or whatever it was applicants, and we know at this point that we can't have more than 190 or 192.
Yeah.
That's only the people that have qualified to get a program, and from what CAO Alt stated, was that he believes that his estimates were on 150, which to me is a realistic number. We may not even see that.
Yeah.
We don't know. We could see 190, but we could see as few as 75. So the potential for them to move through that process, I mean, the urgency ordinance started in June of 16, and when we shut it down the same day as June of 2018, we still had not completed all 700. We were close.
Yeah.
So if you cut that in half, that means in a year they could do 350 or better. So now you're talking about people who have already been through the process. We know, and the planning and code compliance knows how the process is going to work. So things, I think, are going to move a lot faster than what they anticipate.
Oh, okay.
So I think that they would be able to get to that 100 to 150 in a relatively reasonable amount of time. What that time frame is, I don't know. Could be 6 months, could be 8 months, could be 3 months.
Well, and let me ask you this, too, because obviously you're fairly familiar with the players, and by those, I mean, let's call them the good actors, because we know there's a huge assortment of bad actors out there. But these are the growers that have, in my opinion, personally, they've been kind of sitting there patiently waiting to, how can we move forward, or can we move forward, and what are the parameters, and how do we do this? And then where I'm going with this is the fees, let's be honest, they ain't cheap.
No, I'll tell you what, they're cheaper than a lot of other counties.
Yeah, and so this isn't going to be something where, your next door neighbor on 30 acres is probably going to jump into doing. So how do you feel, how are the folks who are probably going to begin growing when they're allowed to, how do you think those folks are going to play with the county?
Oh, I think they're going to be a legitimate business. They're going to invest too much money just in the process. It's a $12,000 and something investment just to get their licenses. That doesn't account for what they're going to have to pay to the state.
To the state.
And if they decide they want to build a building, I know that was some of the conversations that Supervisor Toffanelli had, but that is a separate entity. It might be associated to the grow, but it is a building. It has its own permit. So the growers that are legitimate are business people.
Yeah.
And they're spending a chunk of change to get a business going. I've started a business. I know it's not cheap. So they're in that same boat. So I think they're going to be fine. And again, those are the 190 that have already had a county the ability to get a county license and or a state license back in the UO. So this isn't, there's a particular property right now that I'm eyeballing because it was just purchased this year, and I hear the tractor work because it's near my home.
Oh.
And my guys happen to be out flying and they're moving dirt. Well, if he's going to try and register, he can't.
No, because he's begun grading.
Not only that, he's not part of that 190.
Yeah.
So that 190 is from that group of 700 and something that have actually qualified. So the numbers are going to definitely be limited, and I think that they're good players. Again, they're business people that want to have a good business, and I don't think we're going to have the problems with them, much in the fact that we didn't have a lot of problem with the registered growers before. I said this before. It's the illegal players.
Yeah.
So, and I won't burst anybody's bubble, but the Board of Supervisors is going to have me knocking on their doorstep for more personnel for my marijuana team to knock out the illegal stuff.
Yeah. And then I guess that's my next question, and maybe all this hasn't been completely mapped out, but and I know it's not quite the fees that are going to cover all of this, but between the fees and the taxes, the county will be able to afford more staff for you, correct? Correct.
You got to understand the fees because of Prop 26. They cannot use the fees for anything that are not specifically related to the ordinance.
To doing that application process and
correct.
Okay.
So none of the fees can be used for illegal eradication.
Okay.
That's where Measure C comes in. And now understand that these people are going to start growing realistically if they push things through and they get their permits February, March, they start planning. Their first set of fees or taxes come due in June.
Yeah.
So by next fiscal year, they're going to have some kind of an idea of what kind of taxes they're going to be receiving, hopefully. So those monies are the monies that they can shove over to the sheriff's office for more personnel. They can shove over to the fire department to deal with the illegal grows that have fires and whatnot. And they could even put some of the, I don't know if they have or not, but some of those fees, in my opinion, the registration fees, let me be clear, could be going to the fire departments for them to do inspections.
Oh.
If they're going to have indoor grows, those buildings need to be inspected by the fire departments.
Yeah.
So the fire department should be charging a fee to help them out.
Sure.
But again, that benefits the growers. And that's what that regulatory program is designed to do.
And actually, I guess I'll go all the way back to the beginning. Do you see cannabis use as a problem?
That's a double-edged sword for me.
I kind of figured. And I wasn't trying to trap you in anything, but I'm just curious how law enforcement kind of looks at this, because, and I'll tell you kind of where I'm coming from. I've always kind of been of the mindset, and I've heard law enforcement personnel talk, you don't want to go to that domestic disturbance where everybody's drunk.
Same thing.
And so and so my question then would kind of go to, would you rather go to a house where everybody's stoned or everybody's drunk?
Well, in my opinion, growing up in the 70s, there's a difference between being stoned on 70s marijuana and being stoned on 2020 marijuana. Yeah. It's different. The THC levels are way, way different.
Yeah.
And the problem is that with the vaping that we're seeing going on, these people are what they call dabbing. I'm sure you've heard of it. That is real high concentrations of
potency.
THC. That's right. And it is causing some hallucinogenics to affect people, or being hallucinating.
Yeah.
And it's a different high. Now, the people that are using the medicinal side,
CBD oil, cannabinoids,
different ballgame. They're not getting high.
No.
It's a different thing altogether.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, it's a problem because of the clientele that it brings to us.
Yeah, okay.
And the fact that, and I sent an email out today, the illegal people hiding in plain sight. Now, one of the questions that's been asked of me before is that, well, have you seen a spike in crime? Well, our spike, it's like a roller coaster ride. August, September, October, November, December, January, it flattens out. And then when the trimmers come in, people want to rip off the grow sites. They know that there's cash and there's easy product. So our crime statistics do this.
Wow.
Generally, our crime statistics are pretty flat. This county is probably one of the lower counties in the state that has a low level of crime, realistically.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look at our police logs, they're minor things.
Yeah.
But with the marijuana induced, it brings in a different clientele those certain times of the year.
Yeah,
And that's where you see those spikes. That triple homicide in 2015, October. The drag race down Highway 12 where the guy jumped out of the car and he ended up dying out of Murphy's. That was in like September, October.
Yeah.
It seems like those are the months that our crime rate goes up because of trimming.
Okay.
And the processing of the marijuana.
And so that we're kind of clear on it, the organizations that are legally doing this and hiring these trimmers, the trimmers are coming from out of the area. It's not necessarily in-county folks that are working.
Mostly.
Okay.
And there, some of them, we've seen people from as far away as Finland.
Wow.
San Salvador. I mean, you name it, they're coming in for trimming because they're making really good money.
Yeah.
So they're, I don't like to use the term illegal immigrants. They are here illegally. They haven't done their paperwork. Now some of them may be in the process thereof, but they're not legal. They don't have work permits or anything to be in the state.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, the new 9.22 background program should eliminate that.
Okay.
They're going to have to show some proof that they're legally able to work in the United States.
And that's everyone who goes to work for these organizations that are growing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, they do an interview to possibly hire someone, and then there's a whole other interview process that comes through the CAO's office and the county.
Yeah, right. And they're going to be doing pretty decent background checks from what I'm understanding. So it should weed out. You're always going to have people slip through the cracks, but overall, I think you're going to see that trimming population, the processing population, more of a working class population.
Yeah, okay.
And they're expecting quite a few. They're expecting up to somewheres of 3,000, but I just don't see that.
Man, that seems like a lot for even 190 grows.
Well, they figure, and I've talked to some of these operators of grows, and they figure that it's going to take 8 to 10 people per grow site.
Oh,
8 to 10 times.
Yeah, that's true.
190, there's 2,000 people.
Yeah, okay.
So take that for what it's worth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't see that even during the urgency ordinance. We saw a lot of trimmers.
Okay.
But not that many.
Not quite that many. Huh?
We were busy doing illegal stuff.
Yeah, you were going after the illegal. And now, speaking of that, how much of that is still going on in the county? I know every month it seems like there's 1 or 2 or 3, and then there'll be a spike where there's 6 or 7. But how much of that is going on, like you say, the going on in plain sight kind of thing?
Well, now it's easy. Let's step back a few months. It was easy because people weren't moving indoors and everything was growing outdoors and everything was illegal, so it was very easy to spot from an airplane or a helicopter. There's still a lot of it going on. It's nothing like it was during the urgency ordinance.
Okay.
And there's times during the peak season, and when I say peak season, I'm talking probably March through October, where our guys are hitting anywhere between 4 and 8 a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I don't have the stats. I don't know if you're really going to talk about
that's
some
okay.
stats, but our stats are higher this year than they were last year at this time, and they keep going up. We have some really go-getter kids that are working on the MET program right now, and they've streamlined. We've done it enough now. We know what we need to do to get the process done and get it to the DA's office so they sign off on it, so a judge signs off on it, and so forth and so on. So the process is moving along faster now because we've been doing it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I'm saying, even with the background checks, they've done it, they know what they're looking for, they know how to do it, so I think the process will move faster than it did.
Is there kind of and I don't want to make this sound too dark web or anything, but is there kind of a list among law enforcement in California? Here are the names to watch out for. These are the bad actors that have been in maybe this county or that county, and
I'm going to say no.
Okay.
There really isn't a list. I mean, there are a few names that have been thrown out there that we've dealt with and Yuba County's dealt with or whoever. So there are a few names, but we've only known that because we've done other operations with those other departments, and we've been able to link things.
Yeah.
The big bust that the DOJ did, where they did like 114 homes, which 14 of them were here in our county, that linked a bunch of names together.
Oh, okay.
But overall, there's not a list
Yeah.
that we go off of. It's just talking, and we have a program that if we're working on something, and we put the name into the system. So that if there's other law enforcement agencies working on, like you see on TV, you're hitting one side of the house and we're hitting the other side of the house, so we don't have that problem, so nobody gets hurt.
Okay.
So we'll put it into this system, and it'll flag that, hey, Lodi PD is looking at that house.
Oh, okay.
We had a grow up in the West Point area that Amador County was looking at, and it sent up a flag because they had already inputted it, so we worked together with them.
Yeah.
So there's that. That kind of keeps the two law enforcement agencies from stepping on each other.
It would seem like it would kind of help too, because you're sharing they're picking up on information from their side of the river and vice versa. So
if the names and the addresses coincide, everything has to line up. But yeah, it works.
For every one of those, let's use that number 190 just as a place. For every one of those 190, how many bad actors out there are there out there? I mean, are there like 2 for every legitimate one, or?
I would say, in my opinion, that when this program takes off, January of next year, you're going to see an influx like we did during the urgency ordinance. I don't think it's going to be as bad.
Yeah.
Because we've really limited the areas that it can be in, but those people don't care. You know, they're going to just go wherever they want.
Yeah.
But I will venture to say that once this program is up and running by probably June of next year, you're going to I can probably tell you that there's going to be probably 500 or 600 illegal grows out there.
Wow.
I believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was at one point we guesstimated that there was probably somewhere between 12 and 1,300 back during the urgency ordinance.
Yeah.
And we're going to have the same problem because they can grow outside. Yes, we know where they can grow, but we're not out there flying every single day, and there's only so many of us. That's why I want these other people to be able to get on board.
Sure.
So we can do more, and there are going to be people that are going to get away with it. That's just,
Yeah.
It's kind of like I kept telling everybody. It's like going to the emergency room. The worse off you are, the more attention you're going to get.
Yeah, the quicker you get.
That's right. And it's the same thing with marijuana. The worse off they are, the more attention they're going to get, or the faster they're going to get attention.
Speak just a little bit, Sheriff, on what you find at these illegal grows, because the other thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, something that's a big worry with these illegal grows is the damage they're doing to the environment, because as you say, these people don't care, so they're really in a don't care mindset.
There's only been 3 sites, and I know the fluorocarbon issue keeps coming up. There's only been 3 sites where we had that as an illegal substance in the United States. We haven't seen it since. But what we do see is the pesticides, the herbicides, and the fertilizers.
Yeah.
And those as themselves are not a hazard. The problem is when they just dump it all on the ground and then we get any rain or their water takes it downstream and it goes into the stream beds.
Yeah.
Now you're taking a concentration of stuff and putting it into our environment.
Yeah.
So that's where the issue becomes an issue. So you're right. They don't care.
Yeah.
So that's what we're seeing is the herbicides, the pesticides. They'll mix it in big kiddie pools. Like a 10-foot around pool. They'll mix their stuff in there, and then it just flows down the lines and feeds their plants. Well, that goes whether it's in the ground or whether in those pots, and those pots are about as big around as this table.
Yeah.
They're in like gunny sack bags. Well, that leaches into the ground.
It leaches right out.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're putting some pesticides and herbicides and stuff into the ground. Again, the registered growers typically are using organic stuff, and they're going to be so regulated by the state that they're not going to want to take those chances. So
yeah, you don't want to jeopardize that investment.
Right. So, the black market, different ball game.
Again, I guess we're kind of leading with don't care.
Yeah.
That's the sad reality.
And that is reality. So,
Sheriff, we're down to our last few minutes, and I just want to touch on something that we were laughing about here in the studio before we started, but you guys found a crocodile or an alligator here in Calaveras County.
We didn't find him.
Oh, it was
Somebody
reported.
found him and they reported it. We weren't out alligator hunting.
Yeah.
We're not Crocodile Dundee.
No.
By any means.
Oh my gosh.
We did have to dispatch an alligator. It wasn't a crocodile, it was an alligator. It was about just over 5 feet long.
Man.
We estimate it to be between 6 and 7 year old. And
Wow.
typically what happens is people get these exotic type pets. You see snakes and everything.
Yeah.
And they grow about a foot a year.
Yeah.
So you figure if it's 5.5 feet long, it's probably pretty close to 6, 7
I don't
years
know
old.
who would think one of those creatures is going to make a good pet, but
When they're this big, they think they're
kinda
cute. They look
cool.
like an alligator lizard.
Yeah.
But when they're this big, now they're eating a lot.
I don't want to mess with that alligator lizard. So.
And I think that's what happens is when they get to be that 18-inch to 2-foot length, they say, "Geez, we just can't handle this anymore." Put them out in the pond.
Dump it somewhere.
Well, they feel guilty. They don't want to kill it.
Yeah.
Which I mean, I guess is it your pet? I don't know, but
Yeah.
So it was out there living in the wild, and I mean,
Wow.
as we talked, raccoons don't have to deal with alligators here.
No.
So they're an easy snack, as are geese or ducks. Or
Was it particularly fat?
it was not starving. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
It was quite
That's and is that something very unusual for you in your career here in the county?
41 years in the county, and I have never seen an alligator being taken down.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen one in somebody's aquarium as a little one.
But they're illegal to have.
Yeah, well, that's true too. So, yeah, there you go.
Realistically, you're not even supposed to have them. It's like keeping
Again, with the
around,
don't care, darn it.
Yeah.
You know what? Now we really are down to our last couple of minutes, Sheriff. We're coming into winter time. What should folks be doing to keep their property safe, keep themselves safe?
Doorbell ringers. Those are a great tool. Cameras. Don't leave packages on your doorstep.
Yeah.
If you have a business and you can have your package delivered to a business, have it delivered to a business or send it to the post office. Don't give these thieves the opportunity to get your stuff.
Yeah.
If you have an outside mailbox, pick your mail up as soon as you can.
You get a pretty good idea when the carrier is coming through every day.
You do. And the problem is that people work 8 to 5, mailman comes at 1 o'clock, and now they're susceptible. So it's almost worth trying to get a P.O. box or have your neighbor pick your mail up, especially during the holiday seasons. I mean, people are sending cards, and they don't care what they take. They're just taking it, and they're fishing through stuff looking for cash. And then the rest of the mail gets tossed, along with your bills, your car registration, and all these other things. So
all that stuff.
Just be protective of your stuff. There's a few scams going out there. The credit card scam that was going on in Valley Springs here not too long ago in San Andreas.
Yeah.
Somebody came in and put some card readers inside.
They call that skimmers? Is that
they're
what?
skimmers.
Yeah.
Protect yourself. If you use your ATM card as a credit card and you have to punch in your 5-digit zip code, you're way safer.
Oh, okay.
Or just carry some cash.
Yeah.
Pay with cash and you don't have to worry about it.
You'll get looked at funny when you step to the register, but cash is still cash in this country. Gosh,
a lot of places in this state that don't take cash anymore.
I know. It's getting a little strange that way.
Yes.
Sheriff, I want to thank you for being here, and I also want to remind our viewers, law enforcement is here on our side. And not that they're picking sides when they first show up, but give them their respect they deserve. And somebody tells you to hold up a second, there's usually a reason for it. Let them ask the questions and move forward from there. Sheriff DiBasilio, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Taylor. Enjoy.